I don't kick up a fuss when Jasper Sutton's childhood sweetheart once again takes my spot in the front passenger seat. Instead, I obediently head to the back seat to sit with his good friend Jonathan Clayton. Jasper seemed a little surprised, but didn't say anything more, because Kimberly had already shoved a half-eaten piece of bread into his mouth. This tastes bad. Help me finish it, okay, Jazzy? Without even frowning, Jasper naturally ate the rest of the bread. Kimberly glanced at me through the rearview mirror, sticking out her tongue playfully. I ignored her and grabbed a bottle of soda, trying to open it. The cap was tight, and I still couldn't get it off after 2 attempts. Up front, Kimberly was pouting as she handed her bottle to Jasper. Jazzy, I really can't open it. You know I have no strength in my hands. Jasper just looked at her dotingly, before effortlessly opening the bottle for her. Then, the two of them took turns sipping from it without the slightest intention of avoiding intimacy. I felt a wave of nausea. Just as I was about to set my bottle down, a man's hand suddenly reached over and took it from me. Under the sleeve of a black casual suit, the cuff of a silver-gray shirt could be seen, neatly fitting around a slender wrist. The hand was beautiful, long defined fingers with nails trimmed short and clean. His fingers looked like polished silver in the shifting light reflecting through the car window. While I was still stunned, Jonathan had already twisted the cap open and handed the bottle back to me. The car's music started playing at just the right moment. I quickly took the bottle and murmured a soft, "Thank you." Jonathan gave a slight nod and closed his eyes again. He must have just come off a night shift at the hospital. Faint red veins were visible in his tired eyes. I sipped the soda slowly. The car had merged smoothly onto the main road. Kimberly's birthday was coming up, so Jasper organized this short road trip to celebrate it. About 7 to 8 of us were in 3 cars, heading to a hot spring resort 100 miles away. Not long after we started driving, Kimberly practically glued herself to Jasper's side. The music was loud, making it hard to hear what they were saying, but they were clearly enjoying themselves. Lately, Jasper and I have had several unpleasant arguments because of his inappropriate closeness with Kimberly. He promised to be more mindful next time. But whenever he saw Kimberly again, that promise vanished into thin air. Suddenly everything felt meaningless to me. I lowered my head, chuckled to myself, then turned to look out the window. The mountain roads twisted and turned, with the occasional loose rock scattered along the path. As the car jolted, I couldn't help but lean to the side. My bare knee under my skirt brushed against Jonathan's thigh, pressed tightly against it. I wanted to move away instinctively, but then I noticed a faint reddish mark on Kimberly's neck. Even a fool could recognize it. A kiss mark. There was no need to guess who left it. In that instant, a surge of defiance rose within me, and I simply froze, leaving my knee where it was. Just then, Jonathan opened his eyes and looked at me. I pretended to be perfectly calm, staring straight ahead, refusing to meet his gaze. Yet, my knee, pressed against the outside of his thigh, subtly shifted closer, pressing in even more. Only a thin layer of fabric separated us. I could clearly feel the firmness and heat of his muscles beneath. Waves of warmth surged through me, setting my nerves alight as if electrified. My mouth felt dry, and I couldn't help but swallow hard before reaching for the water bottle again. The cold water rushed down my throat, suppressing the restlessness and anxiety bubbling inside me, jolting me back to clarity. Jonathan still hadn't moved his leg. He just let me stay pressed against him like that. For a moment, my heart felt as if it had stopped entirely. Then it picked up speed, racing uncontrollably. But just then, the car suddenly swerved sharply. Kimberly let out a startled cry from the front seat. "That scared me, Jazzy." She patted her chest dramatically, then softened her voice to praise him. "But your reaction was so quick, Jazzy. If you hadn't turned the wheel in time, that rock would have hit our car." Jasper chuckled. "Impressed? My driving skills are top-notch." Kimberly suddenly leaned over and kissed him on the cheek. "You're amazing, Jazzy. Here's a kiss." "Cut it out," Jasper scolded, pretending to be annoyed. At least he hadn't forgotten his girlfriend was sitting in the back. He shot her a mock glare. "Act your age, will you? Kathy is right here." Kimberly widened her eyes, putting on an innocent, pure expression. "Kathy, Jazzy and I grew up together. I see him as my elder brother. You don't mind, do you?" I pulled a blanket over myself, forcing a cold smile. "Oh, do you kiss your brother like that at home too?" Kimberly immediately put on a pitiful look. "Jazzy, see? I told you Kathy doesn't like me. Maybe I shouldn't go. I don't want to upset her." Jasper frowned right away. "Enough, Catherine. You're 2 years older than Kimmy. Can't you be a little more mature? She's just a kid at heart, spoiled and playful. Why do you have to be so harsh?" In that instant, I didn't even have the strength to argue anymore. "Be more generous, huh? Sure. But in the future, I hope you would be just as generous too." Beneath the cover of the blanket, my leg pressed even tighter against Jonathan's. As the car jolted slightly again, my knee and calf brushed against him once more. Suddenly, his long, warm hand slid over and grabbed my thigh. His palm was hot against my cool skin, and that warmth seeped into me, wave after wave. In that fleeting moment, my senses felt magnified 1,000 times over. I could even feel the faint calluses on his fingers, calluses from years of holding surgical scalpels. I could feel the subtle friction as the pads of his fingers grazed my skin, so I couldn't help but glance back at him, just a quick look. But it was enough to catch him sitting upright, his shirt collar neatly buttoned, yet his Adam's apple bobbed sharply, betraying his tension. From the side, those razor-sharp contours of his face were strikingly handsome. It was the kind that made your heart skip a beat without warning. Jonathan was an outlier in Jasper's social circle. If it weren't for some roundabout family connection between them, a man like him, cold, indifferent, and obsessed with cleanliness, would never mingle with this crowd. After getting together with Jasper, I naturally got to know him too. But every time we met, it was nothing more than a polite nod and greeting. He liked silence, wasn't much of a talker, and his personal life was as blank as a sheet of paper. At gatherings, while others played cards or sports, Jonathan often left early. If he stayed, he'd sit alone on a corner couch, eyes closed, resting quietly, never joining the lively chaos around him. Jasper used to joke about it. My cousin is practically a monk, pure and untouched. He's 27 and probably never even been with a woman. But he's gotten better this past year. Invite him to 10 gatherings, and he shows up to 3 or 4. If it was a few years ago, you can forget about it. You'd never even catch a glimpse of him. I'd actually heard of Jonathan back in college, and had even seen him from afar a few times. To me, he always seemed like the kind of man girls fantasize about for their first crushes. Distant, unattainable, a moon hanging high in the sky. We never had much contact, except for a couple of times when I went to the hospital due to discomfort in my bosom. By coincidence, I ended up with an appointment under his name. I'd initially felt a bit embarrassed, but Jonathan was completely professional. That quickly put me at ease. I even secretly scolded myself afterward. After all, Jonathan was a surgeon. What hadn't he seen before? Chapter 3. Even though I was young, beautiful, and in good shape, I was nothing more than just another body to him. But still, when his hands touched me during the examination, I couldn't help but squeeze my eyes shut, my face flushing bright red. Later, as I was leaving, I wondered if I'd imagined it, or if the room's heating had been too high. Jonathan's ears also seemed a little red. "Jazzy, can we stop at the next service area? I need to use the restroom." Kimberly's voice suddenly pulled me back from my thoughts. I bit my lip gently, trying to shift my leg. But Jonathan's fingers only tightened their grip. I lowered my lashes, not daring to move again. Soon, the car pulled over. Kimberly immediately whined, asking Jasper to accompany her to the restroom. Jasper glanced back at me, looking slightly conflicted, but Jonathan spoke up suddenly, his voice low and steady. "She's asleep." Jasper seemed to relax at once. "John, I'll just go with Kimmy to the restroom. We'll be back soon." Jonathan responded with a simple hum. The car door opened, then closed. Soon their voices faded away, leaving behind complete silence. "Catherine." Jonathan suddenly pulled the blanket off my legs. "You're already sweating. Aren't you hot?" I lowered my head even more, not daring to meet his gaze. I grabbed the water bottle, trying to mask my awkwardness by taking a sip, but he snatched it from me. "Don't drink so much cold water. Have you already forgotten the medical advice I gave you?" I didn't know where the courage came from, but I suddenly looked up and met his eyes. Dr. Clayton's medical skills aren't all that impressive. "Oh?" His brows furrowed slightly. "And why's that?" "I followed your advice, took the medication, avoided the foods you told me to, but it still hurts." His frown deepened. "It still hurts?" "It hurts right now, actually." I pressed my lips together, tilting my chin defiantly. "Should I come in for another checkup, Dr. Clayton?" Not far outside the window, Kimberly was clinging to Jasper's arm. The two of them were so close that there wasn't even room for air between them. Jasper kept pinching her cheek, ruffling her hair affectionately. They looked like the perfect, inseparable couple. I felt a simmering frustration, anger trapped in my chest, desperately searching for an outlet. Before I knew it, I grabbed Jonathan's hand. Or maybe, Dr. Clayton can fulfill his duty as a doctor right now and examine me. When his hand was about to touch my chest, he quickly pulled away and immediately gripped the back of my neck firmly. With just a little force, he pulled me right up against him. "Catherine." He lowered his gaze to look at me, and I had to tilt my face upward, just to meet his eyes. "Don't try to seduce me here." "Seduce you?" I met his gaze head on, refusing to back down. "Dr. Clayton, are you saying you have no medical ethics? You'd ignore a patient in discomfort and just sit there watching?" Before I could finish, he suddenly took off his glasses and kissed me. That taste was so uniquely his. A faint bitterness mixed with the sterile scent of disinfectant, like it seeped from every inch of his skin, completely enveloping me. My eyes widened. Instinctively, I tried to push him away, but his hands only held me tighter. A small gasp escaped me, but as soon as my lips parted, he took full advantage, deepening the kiss even more. The air in my lungs was slowly drained away, making my head spin. First, my legs gave out, then my entire body went weak, as if my bones had been taken apart, leaving me unable to support myself. His fingers gripped my chin, kissing me deeper and deeper. Even my tongue felt numb. At some point, my hands clutched at his shirt, wrinkling the fabric in my desperate grip. Our ragged breaths tangled together, and tears prickled at the corners of my eyes from the overwhelming intensity. Suddenly Jonathan stopped. I tilted my head back, dazed, my eyes still hazy as I stared at him, as if silently asking for more. Jonathan smirked, his fingers brushing away the moisture from the corner of my lips. "No need to rush, Catherine." I stared at him, dazed, my mind still spinning. He leaned down again, planting a soft, lingering kiss on my slightly swollen lips. His forehead rested against mine, his voice low and husky against my ear. 30 more miles. When we get there, I'll give you what you want."